Our Deputy Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses. Ms. Rickman, I really want to thank you for laying out one of the really important issues we've been wrestling with here, which is how do you spur adoption of new techniques, and whether, you prioritize convincing people who've been lagging behind to change their ways, and then how do you reward people who made those changes years ago. But you made a very good case that it has to not just be a question of doing it for the environment's sake, but to demonstrate that there's an economic benefit. I really want to thank you for laying that out so clearly. But now, as an Alberta senator, my questions are primarily going to be for Mr. Wallace. I met with some Alberta soil scientists the other day who were concerned about the fact that they told me, anyway, that the last comprehensive soil mapping done in Alberta was done in 1989. So I wanted to know from you, if that is the case, is that a problem? Are we all right to rely on soil mapping data? And we've heard this from other witnesses from other provinces too. Is it reasonable for us to still be relying on soil mapping data from the 70s and 80s? Or do we need new comprehensive soil mapping, not just in Alberta, but in other parts of the country as well?
Excellent question, and you're right. The soil mapping data is old. We haven't updated it in years, and there are benefits. It's a trade-off. Like when we're talking about improving soil health at a local level, at a farm level, at a field level, we need a lot of very specific data. But that higher level soil mapping data, and in some cases we have data that's older, that isn't even digitized, does give us direction. It does help us develop better programs and target our efforts, not just at a provincial level, but through using our applied research associations and forage associations and our municipalities across the province. It gives them a better understanding of how to develop programs to service the area. Granted, from a producer perspective, that data is not as useful because they need site-specific to make better decisions, which requires like 2 levels of data.
So, I mean, when that data was collected in the 70s and 80s, not only was, weather conditions were different, the environment was different, but technology was different. I presume that back then people had to actually take individual soil samples. Now we have drone technology, we have satellite technology, we have all kinds of aerial imaging technology. Would it be possible to do soil mapping today, leveraging that new technology that would give us more comprehensive data and with less expense and labor?
Absolutely. With some of the remote technology we have now, we can be doing an analysis using various spectrums, even using drones or some other new technologies. We can get a lot more information remotely. We're limited in the sense that ground cover, crop cover gets in the way of some of that, so we have to do it on the shoulders. But you're absolutely right. Remote sensing and a lot of in-field technology and sensors that we can use now that didn't exist before. And you're right, the production system's completely changed, the equipment's completely changed. How we've influenced the system has changed those soils.
So given that, I mean, in Alberta at least, we've got pretty long shoulder seasons, sadly. Why, maybe this isn't a fair question to ask you because you are not a politician, but why haven't we done this? I mean, we have the technology, we have the capability to do this kind of soil mapping, not just in Alberta, but across the country. Why are we not taking advantage of the technology we now have to get us the data we need that is up to date?
Well, I think we are taking advantage of it, but it's usually at the farmer consultant relationship level, and it's not being aggregated into a larger, provincial capture level. And I know you're right. I'm not a politician. I do not set policy. I work on delivering said policy. But soil is represented by, really nobody. If all the commodity groups depend on soil, but none of the commodity groups are directly soil focused. It's all part of the system. And yes, there's been a lot of initiatives by them to maintain our soils, improve our soils, but it's not like they have a voice at the table sometimes directly from soil on some of its needs, nor funding, example, checkoff dollars, to support programming like this. So right now it's fallen onto the shoulders of individual producers They're doing it, collecting data and improving their system. We're just not aggregating it up to provincial.
Do I have time for one more?
You do?
Oh, this is very good. So you talked about the different kinds of soil we have in Alberta, where we have, the dryland irrigation farming in the south. We have, more precipitation and different kind of crops in northern and central Alberta. You haven't talked as much about ranching and soil maintenance on grasslands and forage. So is there a concern when we're talking about the dryland irrigation farming that in some cases we are irrigating and farming in the Palliser Triangle on land that was really meant to be grasslands and used for grazing? How do we strike the right balance between making sure that we are not using, the wrong soil for the wrong purpose, but that we're making the best possible use of each soil for what it's, for what it was evolved to do?
Excellent question. And I don't mean to miss out on the ranching and the grassland management. We have excellent grassland management across this province. And you're right, we are irrigating in some of our light brown or lighter soils. We do a lot of analysis to make sure that's a good quality soil, but it's not just where the soil is developed, it's how we manage it. Under the improved irrigation systems and with new improved technology, we feel we can manage a lot of those soils to reduce the risks on them, compared to when they were grassland and didn't have that extra moisture. And you can see them really perform when they do get their moisture. I spent many years out in the dry part of Alberta, and when it did rain, those soils produced wonderfully. So they can respond.
All right. Thank you very much. And I love the windmill in the background. Thank you.